So let's talk about threats, risks, and vulnerabilities, as well as the relationship among them. Now, a vulnerability, the classic definition is that it is a weakness that could be triggered accidentally or exploited intentionally to cause a security breach. Now, there is one thing you should know. A threat is not the same as a vulnerability. A lot of people often make this mistake of equating threats to being vulnerabilities, because the truth is, threats can still exist even when there are no vulnerabilities. Let me give you a scenario, right? Imagine a company with a very, very strong security policy, and they have the latest firewall, the latest patches, updates, everything is on point. Threats will still exist because you may still have cyber criminals who may want to hack that company. So just because you're invulnerable doesn't mean that threats don't exist. Threats will always exist. Now, take a look at this image and what comes to your mind. You're probably thinking, oh, this is a very healthy, fit couple. You can see they're jogging and they're smiling while they're jogging, which means they obviously love jogging, they love exercising. So you're thinking, oh, they must be very, very fit. They don't have any underlying medical conditions. They're super fit, right? But just because they're super fit doesn't mean that they still can't become sick in the future. It doesn't mean that they can't suffer from, I don't know, food poisoning, or they might have an accident or something like that, right? Now, threats and risks. What's the relationship? See, a threat can exist without risks, but a risk needs an associated threat to exist. Let me say that again. A threat can exist without a risk, but a risk would need an associated threat in order to exist. We'll talk about this a bit later. But the path or tool used by a malicious threat actor can be referred to as the attack vector. Now, when it comes to measuring risks, we measure risks based on the probability that an event or a security breach might occur, as well as the impact of that event on the business. So it's two things. What's the probability that this security breach would occur, and then what would be the cost? What's going to be the impact? Now, threat assessments, on the other hand, is the combination of a threat actor's intentions. What is the intention of this threat actor? Is this threat actor, do they want to disgrace the company? Do they want to hold the company to ransom? And then we combine that with an assessment of their capability to carry out those intentions. Obviously, black hat cyber criminals vary in terms of skill. So, to determine the threat actor's capability, assessments of the actor's training background, their skill level, and whether it is a group or individual can be made. Obviously, if it's a group, the threat is often more significant than if it was just a single individual. So, risk assessment, which we'll talk about later in the course, risk assessment will involve the identification of security risks through the analysis of assets, threats, and vulnerabilities, including their impacts and likelihood. So, to make this very, very, very simple, think of it this way. Risks are event focused. What is the probability that our server will go down? What's the probability that we're going to have a power outage? What's the probability that our CEO will resign and take with him all our company trade secrets, things like that, right? Those are risks, event focused. Threats focus on intentions. Threats is more about actual people. So a hacker wants to take down the database server. That's a threat. A hacker wants to blackmail us with some ransomware. That would be a threat. In other words, you can have a threat. The question here would be, can someone destroy our data? But a risk would say, what is the probability our data can be destroyed? So that's it. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next class.